Hello, VC. Michael, Clash City Rocker, with a video this week about records from the 1950s, an era that I don't really know a great deal about, even though some of my favorite artists gained immense popularity in the 1950s. Miles Davis, Frank Sinatra, Elvis Presley. It's not generally an era that I'm well versed or well read or that I have a huge collection of. My thing has always been 1980s, particularly England, also 1970s, obviously. But I was curious when I was looking at my Discogs the other day, and I accidentally sorted by year, and I found out that the oldest record that I had in my collection is from 1954. It's this record here, Segovia Guitar Solos, and great record. It's on the Decca label. And anyone who saw my Segovia or my guitar video, one of the first videos I ever did, I was privileged enough to be able to see him play when I was a very young man. But this is apparently the oldest record that I have in my collection. It was until a couple days ago when I was in my home state of Montana, just out for a drive, and I stopped in a town, and they had a little record store there. It was closing. Actually, the store was closing, period. And they had a bunch of 78s. And this one they had Hank Williams, Dear John, and then Hank Williams, Cold, Cold Heart. Absolute classic. This is from 1951. So this ends up being the oldest record that I have. Now, at one point, I had portfolios of 78s, but I never had an ability to play them. So when they were taking up a lot of room and they're incredibly heavy, so they're gone. But that Segovia record was the oldest record I had from 1954. And then a few, in the last few weeks, and there's some of them behind me here, I've been buying these boxes to put my 45s in. And you could order them with records or without. And I just on a whim decided to order them with records. And it was one of the greatest things I've done as a record collector. It was so much fun. The records were across genres, across eras, and one of the records they had in there was this one, this little 45 EP, Frank Sinatra. Songs for Young Lovers, My Funny Valentine, The Girl Next Door, They Can't Take That Away From Me, and Violence for Your Furs, accompanied by Nelson Riddle. So it's absolutely stunning little EP. So 2 records from 1954. So I was curious. I decided to look into my collection and see what I have other records from the 1950s. Again, the 1950s is a really interesting era because it is when the LP, the long player record, the 12-inch, starts to gain popularity. Those of you who know more about this than I do know that it was the 10-inch, the 78 RPM, and then the 45s. But the LP didn't really start to take off until the late 40s, and particularly in the 1950s. So the next year, 1950s, that I have a bunch of records from is 1955. This was a fun collection I picked up called $64,000 Jazz. There was, I guess, a TV show called The $64,000 Question. I guess there was lots of controversy because there was some cheating on there. But this is a great collection. Benny Goodman, Louis Armstrong, Eddie Camden, Harry James, etc., Dave Brubeck, Sarah Vaughan, Woody Herman. Great compilation here on the Columbia label. Another Segovia record. And as I've been thinking about the 50s, my eyes have been really attuned to seeing them in the racks. So when I was in Montana this week, I went into an antique store. They had a bunch of older records. I just grabbed this one. Mambos, this is great. Tito Rodriguez and his orchestra, and then Aldemaro Romero and his orchestra, and the Tony Martez Quintet doing Mambos. I love this cover. I love the pink. Les Paul. I live in Wisconsin now. Waukesha, Wisconsin's own Les Paul. The New Sound. There you go, 1955. Then, of course, I mentioned Frank before. Here's a great one. The Voice, when he was on Columbia still. Try a Little Tenderness. She's Funny That Way. Fools Rush In. That Old Black Magic. And I just love the feel of these records. I like the sturdiness. I like the gloss of the covers. I like the inner sleeves that talk about the invention of the inner sleeve and words about high fidelity. I mean, all of these things that make these, and of course, your ubiquitous Columbia 6-eye that those of us collectors are always on the lookout. So, love that record. Great record. Also, last week I picked up this from 1956. Those are my 55 records, 56 Sons of the Pioneers. Now, what's funny about this one is that it is in the shrink, or most likely fake shrink, because I don't think shrink looked like this back then. But that's not my home state of Montana, but it sure could be. That Hereford cattle bunch there could have been my great-grandfather's on his ranch. It might be Montana, though. The Bluffs, etc. So Sons of the Pioneers, 1956. Again, sometimes I just buy records for their covers. This Doris Day one, Day by Day. So great. Autumn Leaves. Found this one a little while ago. Duke Ellington, live at Newport. Again, the eclecticism of this. Now, what's interesting about my collection from the 1950s, and it's a massive gap, and I'm going to have my eyes open for them, are blues records. Really hard to find. And original 50s proto-rockers in the original rock canon of sorts. I have tons of 50s artists, but I don't have many originals from the 1950s, other than, obviously, Elvis, his first RCA record, absolutely stunning copy, vinyl-wise RCA Victor, and then his second record for RCA came out that same year in 1956. I love this cover as well. And what's interesting is I had picked up a little EP a few years ago, same cover, and it's basically the four of the tracks around this. So if you couldn't afford the album, or you didn't have a way of playing an album, you could always get the EP. A couple more records I bought purely because of the cover. Judy Garland, Come Rain or Come Shine. I feel a song coming on last night when we were young. Love this record. And I bought also for the covers, but because I knew somebody with his name, Julia's the name, and Julie was her name, so of course every time I saw a Julie record I picked them up. I love this cover, Lonely Girl. And then another Sinatra. Now he's moved from Columbia to Capitol. And again, I love the artwork on these records. This is Sinatra and great recordings that have delighted the nation ever since they soared to popularity. A dozen of his recent hits and best hits presented now for the first time in album form. Because again, and remember I showed you that little EP, 45 EP, albums were not really the most popular form of recorded music. So you got I Got a World on the String, Three Coins in a Fountain, Love and Marriage, From Here to Eternity, South of the Border, and Rain, all on this first side. It's like a greatest hits compilation. And then one of my all-time favorite country artists, the Louvin Brothers, Tragic Songs of Life, kind of my theme songs here on this Aqua Capitol label. Some of you may be familiar with. I love this. We'll Let Her Go, God Bless Her, What Is Home Without Love, A Tiny Heart, Broken Heart. Such a great record. Ira and Charlie Louvin. And then moving on to 1957, I picked this up yesterday. This was in the dollar bin. Eydie Gormé sings the blues. I didn't know Eydie Gormé sang the blues again. What a great cover. And these records are just so stunningly beautiful. Look at the gloss on this. Hard cardboard. This is on the ABC Paramount label. Eventually, when I became a sound man, stagehand, I worked a bunch of Steve and Eydie shows. Eydie Gormé and Steve Lawrence. Many ones. I had no idea. But this is really a fine record. She's got a great voice. Got a Right to Sing the Blues, When Your Lover Is Gone, Got It Bad, and That Ain't Good. Don't get around much anymore. Great record. Again, came in that box, one of these boxes. It picked up, 45s, 50 45s when you bought the box. There's a Nat King Cole little 4-inch or 10-inch, 7-inch EP. Pick a number, Flaherty. There you go. Chet Atkins, my dad's favorite guitar player, fingerstyle. I wish I could tell you what chord he's got there. I don't know if he's actually finger picking with this one. And of course, Nat King Cole LPs. This one with the Billy May Orchestra, I believe. Again, I don't know a lot about this era, but I'm just struck by the variety of sounds and how open the ears were at the time for folks. This I picked up in Montana a couple days ago as well. Tito Puente, Let's Cha-Cha. Well, why not? I don't know how to cha-cha, but Tito Puente, I'm all for it. And a great bio of him. I guess he was a World War II vet. He was in the Navy. He's from New York. He was a dancer. He tore tendons in his ankle, and that propelled him into being a musician. It's just fascinating. I have a ton of little 7-inches from the 50s, but again, I'm focusing mainly on records. Elvis, of course, Playing for Keeps. And then probably one of the more famous Sinatra ones, Songs for Swinging Lovers. And I love how they have like the whole history of Frank here. For teenagers, when he himself was young and frail, for adventure living moviegoers, I think that's from Here to Eternity. For sad romantics, that's definitely me. And for observers of the social scene, here he is. You make me feel so young. It happened in Monterey. You all know this. This is great. And then to finish up, 57, Lena Horne. Again, I bought it for the cover. But Stormy Weather is such a great one. Mad About the Boy Riding on the Moon. And then pick this one up over the summer. I can't recommend this record enough. Louis Prima, The Wildest. It's unbelievable. Just the Gigolos on here if you need something to anchor. And again, Wisconsin's own Les Paul. So that's 1957. I think I'll show a few more. 1958, I don't know if anybody's noticed, but I've had this record hanging behind me tons of the time when I am showing records. This is Jimmy Wakely. Great cover, one of the greatest covers of all time. Cowboy Serenade. Milk Cow Blues for you Elvis fans. And then some other ones from 1958. Some that I just recently picked up, again, because I've just been really attuned to it, because I, again, don't know much about it. I picked this one up, another Tito Puente record, but this one with Abby Lane. Be Mine Tonight with Tito Puente. And I love it that each one of the songs, she's in a different outfit, different gown. So glamorous. Such great music. And then I picked this one up in the dollar bin as well. Billie Holiday, Ella Fitzgerald, Lena Horne, and Sarah Vaughan. Each get 2 or 3 tracks. It's still in the moderate shrink. It's so perfect. Columbia. More classical guitar players. Again, dollar bin, Carlos Montoya. Lionel Hampton, dollar bin. It's from a live show in 1947. Just blows the roof off. Such a good one. And I love the adverts for records of the time. Picked this one up recently as well. Again, my eyes are open to 1950s, and I've been wanting original Miles records for a while. I'm at a point in my collection where I can start to do that. So an original Milestones right around the time of Kinda Blue. I'm sure most of you are familiar with it. And then Johnny Cash's first record on Columbia. Again, this was a dollar bin find. And so many of these 1950s records are in the dollar bin, including this one. Les Paul and Mary Ford. And then many of you probably get records from family members. And I can remember getting this one, and I have still no idea why my aunt had a 1957 Ravi Shankar album. Is this his first ever record? Might be. The Sounds of India. And then again, this was in the dollar bin. It's in pretty rough shape, but I love Jimmy Rogers. 1958 from Bowers Record Shop. most modern in this thing. We specialize in sacred hillbilly and popular records. There you go. Located in somewhere in Georgia. That's perfectly apt for it. And then as we get into 1959, of course, there's much more popular tracks, and y'all know this, and I won't spend too much time, but Elvis, Back from the Army, great jazz compilations available. Duke Ellington, Jerry Mulligan, Lionel Hampton, Benny Goodman. The guy with Jimmy Wakely, there he is again. Country Million Sellers. Another one I bought just for the beautiful cover. There's Dinah Shore. By the way, look at the Iggy Pop, David Bowie, Dinah Shore show interview. Elvis's first Christmas album. Look at that cherubic face. My second favorite Sinatra album of all the time, Only the Lonely. Blues in the Night, Guess I'll Hang My Tears Out to Dry, One for My Baby, my ultimate favorite Sinatra song. And then this very interesting Johnny Cash one. This is on the Sun label, but it came out chronologically. I can't talk today. After that RCA one. One of my dad's records, Kingston Trio. He was a big folky guy. Pretty funny. And then another classic Sinatra from that time, In the Wee Small Hours. And I think this just got re-released. You got one of those fancy schmancy treatments. Find this, buy this. It's going to be a lot cheaper. And of course, many people's favorite jazz album. There's an original 6i, another one I really coveted. Records from family members, Nat King Cole. Again, these are all records from the 50s. And then this record, a Dollar Bin record, blown away by how good this is. Barney Kessel doing Carmen. Again, if you can find this, and again, it's a Dollar Bin record, this might be one of the best jazz records I've listened to this year. I'm doing pretty good on late 50s Columbia original Miles records. And then this one I just picked up in Montana 2 days ago, Esquivel. I remember when the whole lounge movement kind of swept through the States in the early 90s, and they were releasing all these Esquivel records and lounge compilations, and it was a big rage. But here's one of the originals, Strings of Flame. And what's interesting about this is it had an obi strip. And then just a couple more. Speaking of proto rockers, Buddy Holly. I love this cover, kind of looks like my dad. It's a compilation, 12 singles. Great country compilations. Again, 1950s was one of the best eras for country music, in my view. You got Ferlin Husky, you got Wanda Jackson, you got Hank Thompson, Farron Young, and then the Louvin Brothers, of course. And then finally, I picked this one up about a week or so ago, again, with my eyes open to looking for 1950s. Another one of these amazing lounge records, Martin Denny, The Enchanted Sea. I guess he always uses the same model for each record. So I'm Michael, Clash City Rocker. I make these videos as a creative pursuit for myself. I appreciate when people watch, but I particularly appreciate when people comment. If you are so inclined, please subscribe, please like, please comment. Let me know what other 50s records I should be on the hunt for. All right. Cheers.